we've put a beautiful program together for these opening concerts. We are starting with Haydn's Symphony 103, which has the nickname of drum roll. Having composed over 100 symphonies, you would think that by the time he got to number 103, he might have been tired of this form, but actually it's not the case. Despite that it was at the end of his career, nevertheless the music sounds fresh and full of energy and wit. Also, the music sounds very young at heart, and I think that's one of the qualities that I like most. The symphony starts with a drum roll, a timpani roll, and that's where it gets the nickname. This was very unusual for Haydn's time, or as unusual as starting a symphony with a slow introduction, which is the case here. But this, for being unusual, it also helps Haydn create a great mood of mystery. And then the contrasting allegro that follows the slow introduction becomes even more energetic and alive. The second movement of the symphony is a set of variations on two themes that come from actually two Croatian folk tunes. And these tunes are very closely related, one on the minor mode and the other one on the major mode. So it's going to create a very interesting interplay between minor and major. The third movement has the typical minuet trio configuration, and then the last movement will end the symphony in a uplifting mood. The second piece in this program is the first clarinet concerto by Carl Maria von Weber. Behind every concerto there is always the name of an important virtuoso, and this is the case with the Weber clarinet concerto. Weber met Heinrich Bergmann, a virtuoso clarinetist of the time, while he was in professional troubles, and he was so impressed with his playing that shortly after wrote for him the concertino. Then he wrote two more clarinet concertos. The second movement is incredibly lyrical and brings out some of the most beautiful aspects of the sound of the clarinet, which was an instrument fairly new at the time. There were only a few people that had written concertos for the clarinet, Mozart, Stamitz and Spohr. So there was still a lot of excitement about how to write for an instrument that was a relatively newcomer for the instrument of the woodwind family in the symphony orchestra. We have a fantastic soloist for the Weber concerto. Is the principal clarinetist of the Metropolitan Orchestra, Anthony McGill, and young, incredibly talented, so it should be very exciting to perform this with him. Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony is one of those pieces that no matter how many times you listen to it, when you start listening to it or when you are in a concert hall and the first note begins, it grabs you. And it doesn't let you go until the end of the piece and the last movement. Tchaikovsky wasn't going through a very good time when he wrote the symphony. He had a young student who fell in love with him, or maybe she fell in love with his music, but she was so persistent, and Tchaikovsky had so many doubts with trying to deal with his homosexuality that in the end, Tchaikovsky decided to marry the young student. This obviously turned out to be a very bad idea, and 2 weeks after the marriage, Tchaikovsky was in such poor emotional state that attempted to commit suicide. While he was trying to recover from all this, he started to work on the Fourth Symphony, and this proved to be a good way for Tchaikovsky to concentrate on something else, and also it proved to be a good way for him to get out of his emotional state. That is very clear when you listen to the Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony. From the somber, fateful beginning, you can tell that Tchaikovsky was carrying the weight of all his experiences, recent experiences. Towards the third movement, the moods start changing and the symphony starts to open up a little bit. And the third movement has this fantastic original pizzicato passage where all the strings play, plucking the strings for extended amount of time, which creates a beautiful color in the orchestration. And then the winds and the brass alternate in blocks with the strings. The way he starts the fourth movement is so incredibly energetic that it's hard to resist again. I think all in all this is a very interesting program. We start on the classical period, going into the early romantic with the Weber Clarinet Concerto, and then we finish with a full body romantic symphony. Haydn starts with a drum roll and Tchaikovsky will definitely end with a bang. Pretty exciting. Before I forget, I also would like to remind you our first CD just came out and it has turned out very nicely indeed. We are going to have a party, a presentation party after the concerts, and I hope that you will be able to join us and celebrate. Hope to see you there.